Okay guys, so militarism is the build-up of armaments and armies, navies and air force by particular countries. Often this occurs through an arms race where two countries vie to make sure that they have the bigger armed forces. This can include the building or the buying of weapons, as well as the building and buying of warships, naval ships, and the creation of armies and navies through conscription. Militarism is often a defensive mechanism. It's in place to make sure that you can defend yourself if you are in some way invaded, and rather than an offensive weapon which is used to invade other countries. Between 1900 and 1914, the British Navy grew exponentially. They built dreadnoughts and they built up their naval numbers. The reason why the British concentrated mainly on their navy was because they're an island nation. At that point in time in 1919, if there would be an invasion of Britain, it would come from the sea. Air force or air attacks were very rare, and there were very few countries that actually had any access to an air force. Russia was actually the one that had the biggest air force, and I think that they had about 14 aeroplanes that they could use at the start of World War I. So the build-up of a navy by Britain was very important to their national interest. However, Germany viewed that as a sign of aggression, and because of that, they too built up their navy. However, Germany didn't quite have the coastline that Britain did, but they weren't very far from Britain. So the British coast and the German coast were very close to each other. So in response to Germany building up their navy, Britain also built up their navy more. So in the end, what happened was that one would put in place a policy or create a bigger navy, and the other one would respond by doing that twice-fold. So it became one of those things where the countries were employing their people, which was really fantastic, but it also meant that it threatened the security of other nations surrounding them. In the end, this became quite difficult by 1914, because there was this constant threat that if political alliances broke down, that the armed forces would be used to quell that problem. So militarism caused really a sense of unease in Europe before 1914. Having said that, once war broke out, it was an easily accessible military that all of the countries had, for the simple reason that they had conscripted servicemen, and they had a build-up of armaments which they had ease of access to. If this hadn't occurred beforehand, in the 20 years beforehand, then perhaps World War I wouldn't have been as huge as it originally was, and it may have ended a lot quicker or a lot sooner than what it actually did.